Okay, good morning, everyone. I hope you're doing well, enjoying the last couple of days of the school year. Everything's going well. And so, welcome to the final webinar in the webinar series. So something a little bit different to end the 10 webinars on. So today we're going to be talking about yoga and mindfulness in the classroom. So the reason that I thought we'd do one on yoga and mindfulness on this topic is because a couple of years ago, I had a CELTA trainee who was really into yoga. She trained in yoga, and she, during the course, spoke about the fact that she also used it in the classroom, and how it was really, really beneficial. And in the summer, she'd been to summer schools and done yoga with various students from different places in the world, and said it was really beneficial and really useful. And so she did some training with us and kind of talked to me about it. And from there, I've done other things as well with our teachers and also in summer schools too. So what I've got planned for you today is kind of a mixture of everything that I've picked up over those years, from the initial kind of interest from the CELTA trainee until now, after having done a good few years of training in summer schools on the topic, and why I think it's beneficial for the classroom. So first of all, thank you very much to Richmond for supporting all of the webinars that we've done throughout the period of confinement. It's been delightful. This is something that we kind of hadn't anticipated doing so much of before the confinement, but actually I feel like it's been so nice to share these things with a network of people, and it's been really beneficial for us, and I hope it's been really beneficial for you as well. So this is something that we're definitely going to continue doing into the next academic year, even if we're not in confinement anymore. So keep an eye out as well. And yes, thank you very much to Richmond for supporting the webinars and helping us get the word out on the webinars that we've been doing over the past couple of months. Okay, so this is what you're going to be doing by the end of the session, okay? Yes? Everyone good with that? Got your mats? No, it's a joke. So I think a lot of people think of, when you think of yoga and mindfulness, all of these things, you think you have to be able to put yourself in all these different positions and be very flexible and very bendy. I'm definitely not flexible. I'm definitely not, one of these very supple people that can just bend in every direction. I can barely even touch the floor. So I think a lot of people have this false idea of what it means to include some kind of element of yoga and mindfulness in the classroom. It doesn't mean that at the end of the day, we're all going to be standing on our heads. As much as that would be fantastic, and there are many, many health benefits to doing yoga like this, in the classroom, not feasible, and also slightly dangerous, health and safety. So this is not what we're talking about when we're talking about yoga. It's something that everyone can access and everyone can do. And as a teacher, to use it, you don't have to be someone that is super into being flexible and yoga. You don't have to have had any prior experience at all. If you have, fantastic. If you haven't, it's okay. There are so many ways you can include it and not be an expert yourself. So that's the first thing that we need to make clear. Okay, we don't need to be standing on our heads. So what are we going to cover today? So the first thing we're going to cover is definitions, because I think it's really important to define what we're looking at here. So we're going to define yoga, we're going to define mindfulness. We're going to talk about how then, based on the definitions, how they are useful in the classroom. How do students react to mindfulness and yoga? How can it be integrated into the English classroom? What do we have to be aware of? So some considerations that we need to take into account before using it or when preparing it. Is it just for children? Okay, because I'll be talking a lot about younger learners, but then at the end we'll talk a little bit more about how we can integrate this with teens and adults and why it's also really beneficial for them. And at the end, we'll have just general conclusions and any questions that you have. So going through, if you have any questions, note them down. And at the end, then you can ask me and I'll try and give you the answers if I have them. If not, then I'll get back to you. So, first of all, what is yoga? Okay, so yoga is a systematic practice of physical exercise, breath control, relaxation, and positive thinking and meditation aimed at developing harmony in the body, mind, and environment. The practice entails low-impact physical activity, postures, breathing techniques, relaxation, and meditation. Most people are familiar with the physical poses or yoga positions, but they don't know yoga involves so much more. So yes, you know, that kind of standing on your head, all of that, that's what we associate with yoga, but we don't realize necessarily that it's all about here, harmony in the body, mind, and environment. And ultimately, this is what we want to bring into our classrooms and what we want to help our students achieve, just harmony. And then how is this linked to mindfulness? So mindfulness is the quality of being present and fully engaged with whatever we're doing at the moment, free from distraction and aware of our thoughts and feelings without getting caught up in them. Noticing how you feel physically, mentally, emotionally, and energetically without judgment. So you can see how, yes, they are two separate disciplines, yoga and mindfulness, but they have a similar outcome. So what we're looking for with mindfulness is doing something, but being mindful about it. Okay, so here it says being present and fully engaged with whatever we're doing at the moment, free from distraction or judgment. So not judging ourselves or not getting frustrated or not losing control. And that's something which I think a lot of our students may struggle with, especially in a classroom environment. And then with the yoga, this goes hand in hand because it's all about relaxation and breathing. And so the one can lead to the other. So you can use yoga mindfully. One other point about mindfulness is that of late, it's something which has been seen as a little bit of a trend, as a fad in education. So you might have read lots and lots about it over the past couple of years or seen things being used in schools. And yes, it has kind of exploded and a lot more schools are integrating it now. But that doesn't mean that it's necessarily just going to be for now and then we shouldn't use it later on. Like any good technique or approach or method in teaching or in education, it's something which is introduced for a reason. And if it works, it's not a fad. It's not a trend that we should then leave in favor of the next thing that comes along. If it works and consistently, then it's something that we need to introduce as a matter of course in our classes, as opposed to thinking, I'll do it a couple of times, it's kind of fun, and we'll move on. Something like this as a teacher, if you integrate it and you learn it and it becomes part of your teaching, can benefit you incredibly in your classes. So it's worth thinking, okay, if I do this and I'm inspired by what I see in this webinar or by the research that you then do after this, it's worth bearing in mind that it's not just for now. Okay, yes, we talk about mindfulness, but when all of this goes away and we don't read as many articles about it, it doesn't mean that it's not still worthwhile to use in our classrooms. So yes, it's great and it's very current and lots of schools and classes have been using it, but it's something that you have to be persistent with. And there has to be some kind of regularity with your use. If you don't, then you'll forget about it as a teacher and the students then won't benefit from it, having spread it out regularly throughout the term or throughout their classes. Okay, so now knowing a little bit more about what yoga and mindfulness is, why do we use it in the classroom? What good does it do? Okay. So it introduces healthy thinking habits from an early age. So looking at yoga and mindfulness, it's all about relaxation, non-judgment, okay, focusing on specific things without distractions. So everything to do with thoughts and thinking is a habit, Okay, when we get frustrated, when we get angry, it's because we have this negative habit. Okay, it's all connected, and you can train your mind and your thoughts to be healthier and healthier for you as a person. So if we can give this to our students at a younger age, they create and they develop healthier thinking habits as they get older. It reduces feelings of anxiety and stress. Okay, and I'd like to point out anxiety and stress for the teacher and for the students. So we have here, because it's relaxation, it's emptying your mind, it's being present. Okay, if you do that, you automatically reduce anxiety and stress. It's non-competitive, so a lot of the time, and competition is a great tool for the classroom, but there's some points where competition can get a little bit too heavy. It's too much. And so this is something, an activity that you can do in class, which is not competitive. It doesn't require, one student rushing through their exercise to get to the end to say they've finished. It doesn't require one person putting their hand up quickly to give an answer. Everyone is the same. Everyone starts on the same page. There is no prize, there is no glory in finishing first, because no one finishes first. And so in this sense, it takes away the added stress of students constantly comparing themselves to another member of the group or another person in their class. It helps concentration, again, because we've spoken about that focus and about being free from distractions, being relaxed. Encourages students to think innovatively. So if they're more controlled and they have healthier thinking habits, they think more innovatively because they're not distracted by other things. A lot of the time, our students can do much more than sometimes they display in class, but because in class there are just so many distractions and they're like, oh, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this. There's never a focus. There's never this concentration on what they need to do. And in order to get those really good thoughts and that innovative thought, we need to be constant. We need to concentrate on the thing that we're doing at that moment. And so in doing mindfulness and yoga and practicing this in a class, you're enabling your students to think more innovatively. Again, in the same vein, they use existing knowledge more effectively. So they try and think around the topic a little bit more, but also then dig deeper into their existing knowledge that they have. It helps them deal better with distractions, like we said. So it's something which they have to deal with on a more positive level. Okay, distractions are always going to be there. But what happens is that these distractions can cause many problems down the line. So as a teacher, what you want to do, you try to avoid distractions. Distractions are a part of life, okay? But what we try to do with this mindfulness is to get the students to deal better with distractions and deal better with these things that can possibly then cause them to lose focus. It improves working memory. Again, because we have a healthier thinking habit and healthier thinking patterns. It gives students tools to calm themselves down if necessary. So again, I feel this, I notice it, I'm more aware of myself, and I'm more aware of how I feel and how I think. Therefore, I am much more in control of dealing with that. So it kind of avoids this real explosion of emotions and tries to help students accept and deal with the emotions they're feeling, and be able to calm themselves down. Another thing here, it can be a great part of the classroom routine. So we have, with lots of our classes, a routine in place. And yoga and mindfulness is a great element to add to a classroom routine, and students really benefit from it. And it's something which is different, and it's not just, okay, let's go, what's the weather, what's your name? It's something which is physical and active and uses their brain, but is also training their brain to think in a more positive way. And also it's fun. So I think it's, we want to have elements of fun in our lesson which are also beneficial and educational for our students. And they're sat on the chair so much in school, hours and hours and hours a day. And so this is a way to get them out, to get them up out of their seats, but in a way that's controlled, that's not going to go crazy. It's not like running around the classroom. And so there is a real element of fun to it as well, which of course is beneficial. Okay, so just something which I think is very important here to stress. So it's important and it's useful for the individual, but also for the general classroom environment. So educators know that children learn best when they are comfortable, safe, and relaxed. Imagine if, along with giving our children the gift of lifelong learning and the tools to become kind and productive adults, we could also give them the gift of mindfulness, using their breath and mind to lead a happy and healthy life. In turn, teachers will reap the benefits of mindfulness as well. We all know that a happy teacher has a happy classroom. And so I think a lot of this is how we deal with ourselves and our frustration and how we pass that on to students. Ultimately, if we practice more mindfulness in the classroom, then it will come back to us. And so it is in turn creating this much more positive and relaxed and controlled classroom environment in terms of emotions and just happier in general. It's not just an activity to calm students down. It's not just an activity as a filler. It's something which is used to improve the classroom climate and to improve the students' capacity for learning. So I'm going to show you a video now, and this guy talks about one of the positive effects that mindfulness and practicing one very, very simple part of mindfulness, one simple activity, has benefited a whole group. Okay, so it's just a couple of minutes. Have a look and think about here. Okay, that one tiny thing, how has it benefited these students? Okay.
One of the ways that children can learn to focus better and strengthen their attention skills, particularly for concentration in school, is something I saw demonstrated in a second grade classroom in a public school in Manhattan's Spanish Harlem, which is a very impoverished area of New York City. Kids there live in the housing projects and they have very tough lives. I was astonished because the classroom atmosphere was very calm, very focused. Kids were very alert, very attentive to the teacher. What's the secret here, I wondered. Then I realized why it was. The teacher said every day we do an exercise called breathing buddies. One by one, the children go to their cubby and get their favorite little stuffed animal. Then they find a place on the floor to lie down. They put that animal on their tummy and watch their breath go up, counting 1, 2, 3, and watch it go down, 1, 2, 3. Up, 1, 2, 3, down, 1, 2, 3. That is training of the attentional circuitry. This is the kind of training which helps children not just focus on what the teacher is saying, but it turns out that same circuitry helps them manage their distressing emotions. So they're getting a twofer. They're getting attention training and self-management training, inner self-management training. Something as simple as just watching your breath and bringing your mind back when it wanders is that basic repetition of the muscle for focusing.
Okay, so what he's got here is the fact that all the students have done is take their little soft toy and every day they train this focus. Okay, so they train the focus on being able to just concentrate on breathing in, 1, 2, 3, watching it go up and then watching it go down. So this element of focusing on what you're doing at that moment is, again, he talks about the circuitry of the brain and of our emotions. So it really, really helps the students then. They don't realize, but throughout the rest of the day and throughout their lives then, be able to deal with that focus, free from distractions, and helps them deal with any kind of distractions that they have within them in terms of maybe emotional distress or any frustrations that they may encounter throughout the day. So we think that's something that's just kind of fun. They take a soft toy, they lie down and they have it on their tummy. But the long-term benefits of this are incredible and is something that we shouldn't then underplay. And he saw it in the classroom in a second grade class, so maybe with 7 and 8 year olds, which is then something which is benefiting them throughout the day and is something which is tangible and you can see. So we shouldn't then underplay the long-term benefits of including just a very short activity every single day in our classes. Okay, so some of the reasons that we might not integrate any kind of yoga or mindfulness into our classes is because we think there might be negative reactions. So I just want you to type in the chat how you think or what you worry students might feel if you try and do any kind of yoga or mindfulness in the classroom, especially, you know, with kind of older children, teenagers. What do you worry that they might feel in the classroom if you try and integrate any kind of yoga or mindfulness? Yeah, waste of time, uncomfortable, bored. Yes. Okay, so embarrassed. They will confirm that I am kind of weird. Yes, to be honest, this is something that I aspire to be as a teacher. I think if the students think you're a little bit weird, I think you're onto a winner, because then they don't ever question anything you tell them. If they think you're weird, they're like, oh God, there she goes again. And I think they're more willing to kind of go with your weirdness because they know they're a little bit strange. So being weird and displaying that weirdness, I always think is a positive thing to have in your class, a positive teacher attribute, because students then never question it. They're like, well, it's just because she's very strange. So all of these for sure. These are the ones I've come up with. So I've got embarrassed, which you said as well, bored, distracted. So, you know, there's always these things like, oh, I'm distracted because there's my foot. Oh, I'm sitting on the floor. Oh, distracted by other things. Not taking it seriously, not engaged, and resistant. So like just not wanting to do it, but like, oh God, why am I doing this? Why are you making me do this? What's the benefit? And so I think it's a you know, two things here. As teachers, we need to try and not sell it badly. We need to sell it well. Okay, so maybe not introducing it as yoga or mindfulness, but just getting students to do the position or to breathe in or to breathe out or something. Because it's all about how we demonstrate it in the class, how we bring it to the classroom, as to also how the students are going to react to us. So we need to make sure we bring it positively. And also, the first time we do it, yes, they might think we're a bit strange. So this is why it's all about persistence. So making sure that it's a regular habit. It's something which happens not just once, but again and again. Because if you just do it once and it's like, oh, I feel a bit strange. Naturally, as humans, we feel embarrassed when we do these things. If we're using our body, we feel a bit more embarrassed. And so it's something to bear in mind, that the more we do it and the more we become comfortable with it, the more beneficial it's going to be, because I'm not distracted and I'm not thinking, oh gosh, I feel really awkward now. So it's something to keep going. And so in classes, then we have students that might do something like this. Okay, these students do not look embarrassed, they don't look bored, they don't look distracted, they're all engaged. Even the ones that aren't joining in, these students are also engaged in the activity, and we'll look at this kind of activity in a little bit. So here we've got students doing little yoga poses. One's got a flashcard, the other one is doing it. Okay, so it's kind of, these students are not disengaged, they're not bored, they're really into it, they're happy. Okay, look at his little face. Look, he's just doing it so well. And then he probably goes home to his mum and he's like, Mum, look what I can do. And the mum's like, I thought we were learning English. No. So it's something which is beneficial. And yes, these little yoga cards are great. I've got a couple of examples later on, but you can find so many flashcards online of yoga poses that you can use in class. Very simple, very effective. You don't need a lot of space in your classroom to do it. And once you start doing it, students then become more accustomed to it and more familiar with it, to the extent where they actually request it. So I remember I did this with a group of maybe 7 and 8 year olds, might have been, I can't remember how old they were. And to my surprise, we'd done it a couple of times because I was like trying it out and seeing how they reacted to it. And then one day, one of the little girls comes up to me and she goes, "Oi, can we do the relax thing again?" And I was like, "Oh, you want to do it? That's great." So automatically she thought, "Oh, I enjoyed that. I got something from that." And she's requested it again. So after a couple of times of introducing it in the class and using it in the class, students benefit from it and also then request it again and want to do it again. So that's why kind of implementing it regularly into your classes is really beneficial for everybody, and students really like it. Of course, it's all about the activities that you use, the moment of the class, but students really benefit from it, and it's not something that students should feel negatively towards. And I just thought it was a great moment. She was like, "Can we do the relaxing?" I was like, "What relax?" "Oh, you mean the yoga we did? Of course we can do it again." So this was with younger learners, and of course in the previous picture we've seen younger learners too. And you think, okay, perhaps this might not work with teens, this might not work with students from different countries, in bigger groups, whatever. And so I did my own little experiment. So after the initial training and kind of trying to integrate it into my classes in the English language classroom, which are obviously smaller than massive classes, massive groups, I decided that I would try and implement this during a summer school. So for the last 6 years, I've been running a big summer school in London, and I decided that we would have a Yoga Thursday. So every Thursday morning, all the students that we had on site at that time would go outside, and I had one teacher who was really, really into her yoga, so she said that she would lead it. And the results were incredible. Everybody joined in. I'll show you some pictures now. Everybody joined in, everybody was really keen, and these were students from the age of 12 to 17 from many, many different countries. And as you can see, very simple moves and very simple tasks for the students to do, all together, hundreds of them outside on a field in a summer school in London. And every single week during the summer school, and for the 6 weeks, we did Yoga Thursday. And it's run through the whole time that we've introduced it. And it was incredibly beneficial for the students because they're sitting down all day, they're learning, and when they go back to the class then after Yoga Thursday, they felt much more alert, they felt much more awake, active in terms of their brain function and focus. And so it was nice to get outside. Of course, if you can get outside, great. A lot of the time we cannot get outside. I understand that this is, fantastic to have a massive field in a school. But the principles of it are the same. If you introduce it on a regular basis, students will benefit from it and they come back much more active of mind. So this is some more, it's like, in what other way would you get hundreds of students just to lie down on the floor? Okay, and many of these students hadn't ever done it before. They hadn't ever been to a yoga class, they hadn't ever seen anyone doing yoga, and after this then they were benefiting from it and using it positively. So I really hope that this has helped some of those students get in touch a bit more with just being more mindful, doing the yoga, and hopefully they've taken something away from it that's extra to just being in the UK for a summer school. So yes, it works across the board, I think. And if we assume that students are going to be negative towards it and are going to think negatively about it, then they probably will be. It's like anything in the class. So we have to then promote it and be positive towards it, and be prepared to be pleasantly surprised by students' participation in these kind of activities in class because they like it. Okay, so knowing now why it's beneficial, when we can use it, what it is, let's see then how we can implement some of these activities into the classroom. So by no means is this every single activity that you could ever integrate into a classroom, but what I've tried to do is think about 10 ways you could implement it straight away. So things which are very easy, you don't really have to prepare, and things which don't require an awful lot of space, because of course in the classroom we are often space limited. Okay, so tip number 1, mindful breathing. So a bit like we saw in the video that he was talking about that breathing buddies with the little soft toy, we could do this in class, but it doesn't have to be with a soft toy. We can just do it with our hands and our belly. Okay, so we can sit up, we can lie down if we have space. Of course, if you've got 10 students in a tiny classroom, you're not going to be able to lie down. But we could stand up, breathe in, and the thing is to put your hands on your tummy, on your belly, so you can feel it breathing in and breathing out. What does that do? Why do we have to do that? It's because then when you do that, you're focusing on the act of breathing. Because we breathe without realizing, it's important that we have something which then helps us focus on it. So the hand or the buddy or something needs to be there so that we're conscious of the breathing in and of the breathing out. So we can do this for a number of seconds. We can also breathe in, hold our breath for a bit, breathe out for a bit. So any kind of mindful breathing is gonna help us. Another thing we can do to be focused on our breathing is we can kind of have the candle breath. So we hold out our hand and we imagine we're blowing on a candle to make it flicker, not to go out. Why do we do this? Because we're trying to control our breath. Okay, so we're not going done. Okay, we're going and we're imagining, so we're kind of activating all of those great connections in our brain which are focusing on the thing that we have in front of us. Yes, we don't have a candle, but automatically if you tell someone you have a candle, it's not going out, in our brains we're like, okay, and it will really help them. If they need to, they can close their eyes, but if they close their eyes, you need to really, really be careful on your voice giving instructions and on the level of instructions. So this is something to bear in mind. If they close their eyes, they need to understand what you're saying. So you need to maybe demonstrate it first before they close their eyes. Otherwise, if they're lower level, you're not going to be able to give them correct instructions, and they're not going to do what they're meant to do. And then the activity won't be as beneficial. Okay, tip number 2, tense and release. So sometimes this is called body scan, and this works really nicely. You don't have to do the whole body. You can just do different parts of the body, but it's important that you work from the bottom to the top. So maybe I tense my toes for 5 seconds and then I release them. I tense my legs for 5 seconds and then I release them. And why do I do this? Sometimes we don't realize that we're carrying stress in different parts of our body. So I might not realize that I'm carrying loads of stress perhaps in my back. And often this can happen when students are sitting down for a long time, or they've been writing for a long time, and you're a little bit like this, your shoulders are up. And so if you don't realize you're carrying stress, it's really hard to get rid of it. But when you tense and you release, it automatically makes you release that tension and that stress, even if we don't realize in that area we're carrying it. And so in doing this from the bottom to the top of our body, whatever points you think students might be holding more stress, do it. I swear, do it now. Tense and release. You feel so much calmer. And also in the focus of tensing my toes or tensing my legs, I'm much more mindful because I'm only doing one thing, because it's sometimes quite difficult just to tense your finger, or just to tense your hands, or just to tense your toes. And so then it's working on focus. It's also working on relieving stress. So we can also then control our breathing with that. So when we release it, we can breathe out. And again, here I said, focus on the areas of the body which students are holding stress or anxiety, or which you perceive the students are holding stress or anxiety. Okay, tip number 3. So we've mentioned classroom routine. So as part of your routine, implement poses at different elements and different stages of your classroom routine. E.g., at the beginning of the lesson, tree pose. Okay, you could have arm swings between activities. This is something which I have tried personally, and I love an arm swing. So you just stand with your arms by your side, and you literally just let your arms swing around you. And this is incredibly effective. I've done it if I'm just feeling stressed. I stand there, looking like a weirdo, of course, and just swing my arms. And afterwards, I feel so much better because it just kind of like gets that stress out. So if you have maybe 4 or 5 different poses, just say, okay, at the beginning, we do this. In between activities, we do this. At the end, we do this. And if you implement that a couple of times, students then will expect that and will really enjoy it. And it's a really good, I think it's like a really good bookend to your classes and a really good way to transition, because sometimes transitions can be quite difficult. Transitions can cause distractions and can get students to kind of talk to each other a bit too much. Maybe they don't really know what to do. So transitions sometimes can be those tricky parts of lessons when we lose students. And so in implementing one kind of pose during these transitions, we can help avoid that and also help increase students' focus. If you want to, you can give students the choice of different poses. So you can say, okay, your options, these, if you've got your flashcards, these are your 2 options for beginning. What one are we going to do today? These are your options for our transition. These are your options for the end of the class. So you can give students the option if you want. Okay, tip 4. Like we saw in the picture that I showed with the flashcards, and one person here has said they have those set of flashcards. Great. Have a bag of flashcards which students choose. Okay, so they can choose from take one out. They can look through and choose it for one of their classmates, or choose for them to do, or choose for the whole class to do. It depends. You could have them in a bag or have them on the wall. Maybe you could have like a set of 6 on the wall, you point to it, and then the students then have to get into that position, which you can also rotate, and you can choose depending on what you feel the students might need at that moment. Set aside some time in the lesson to complete the task. So it doesn't need too long, 5 minutes in your plan. Once students are familiar with it and they feel comfortable with this kind of activity, it will not require explanation. Students will just automatically get into that position, benefit from it, focus, and then we're ready to go back. So if you feel like there's a point where students are losing focus, this is a really great way to get them back on track and to help them concentrate in readiness for the next task they might be doing. Or if they've been really concentrated and you can see that they're kind of losing it, then it's a nice way to kind of get them back up before then settling back down. It gives them a little bit more brain energy. Okay, and these are just a few of the flashcards that I found. So if you go onto this paperzip.co.uk Yoga for Kids, they have some different flashcards which have difficulty rating. So you can kind of choose what they do or what they pick out of the bag. So you've got like an easy pose, then you've got 2 out of 5, warrior, lunge, tree, wheel. So you can choose depending on your students, depending on how much space you've got, you can choose pretty much the poses that they have to choose from. And these are really great. I really, really like these. And I think it's very simple and very easy to follow. And also then it kind of gives you an idea about why it's good. So here the lunge pose has several variations. It improves balance, concentration, and core strength. Warrior, it increases flexibility and balance. Okay, tree pose, it strengthens a variety of muscle groups as well as improving your posture. And so again, posture is really something which is very bad amongst lots of our students, especially these days when they've been sitting in front of a computer for months and months. So implementing any of these into your classes is going to benefit them in terms of their posture and just being straight as well. And you notice when you sit straight and your posture is improved, your concentration is also improved. You feel more energetic. You feel more, your mind feels more awake. Whereas if you're like this, your brain is like, I'm going to go to sleep now. So, improving posture and doing these things automatically makes your brain more alert and more prepared to learn. Okay, number 5. Vocabulary with poses. So simple vocabulary, and there's lots of suitable vocabulary for this, can have accompanying poses. Animals work very well, but there's loads of other vocabulary that you can take and create poses. It doesn't have to be a yoga pose. It can just be something which you create as a group, okay? Or it's something which is kind of, you've got a little code or something that you found, and for this vocabulary, you have this pose. This can also help the recall of words, because as we know, movement and any kind of like TPR is something which is beneficial for making something memorable, so making the vocabulary memorable, and then so it helps our recall. If we do the pose, the vocabulary is more likely to stick, okay, and it's more likely to be like, oh yeah, I remember that word because of this, because you're combining the element of language and the element of movement. Plus, then in doing something that's a bit more yoga based, we can also then help students with their posture, with their energy, with relaxation. So it's beneficial for everyone. So we can do it with just vocabulary, or we can do it as part of telling a story or books or some kind of short text. So books of vocabulary, for example, animal vocabulary, we read them, and whenever students come across a word that we've practiced the pose for, they do the pose. So it helps their detailed listening skills, and it also then means they're active and part of the story as opposed to just being very passive. I'm going to show you a video now. So this is Cosmic Kids Yoga. They have a huge YouTube channel. Don't know if some of you have come across it. And they do some stories. So this story is, we're going on a bear hunt. So lots of you have probably used this in your classes. But here she does the story and she tells the story. And in doing that, she goes through it and does the yoga throughout. So she's telling a story. The students are engaged in the language, but it's active. So I'm just going to show you this. Of course, you don't have to include as many of the poses as she does, because I mean, this is incredible. It's like boom, 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 and I'm like, I can't even keep up, and I'm not a child. But the idea behind it, so incorporating the elements of yoga and mindfulness within the realm of a story and of language, is incredibly beneficial for students, and is something that we can definitely take on board for our classes. So just have a look at the little part I've taken from We're Going on a Bear Hunt.
Begin by coming up to stand and beginning with a march. Here we go. We're going on a bear hunt. We're going to catch a big one. Jump your feet wide, take your arms wide, making yourself as huge as you can. What a beautiful day. Jump your feet together, reach up to the sun and say, hello, sun. Now bring your hands to your hips. We're not scared, are we? No way. Shaking our head from side to side. Uh-oh. Grass. Bring your feet together and stretch your arms above your head, bringing your palms to touch. It's long, wavy grass, leaning from one side all the way over to the other. Oh dear, we can't go under it. Coming down onto your bellies, everyone, lying as flat as you can, hands under your shoulders and curl your shoulders up. No, we can't go under it. We can't go over it. Come up onto your hands and knees, tuck your toes and press your bottoms to the sky. We have to go through it. Coming up to stand, everyone. Now bring your hands to your hips and see if you can lift up one of your legs, trying not to wobble. Now kick your leg forwards and backwards, going swishy, swashy, swishy, swashy. And let's turn to the other side. Here we go. Swishy, swashy, swishy, swashy, swishy, swashy. Yay, we got there. Let's.
Okay, so it goes on like this for the whole story. So 15 minutes, which I think is incredible that she can remember all these things, and it's very good. So we can kind of implement some of these things like the grass or the swishy swashy. We can take elements from it, and even if we don't have that much space, we can still do things where students just stand on the spot. Or you can even do the grass from your chair. So really, really beneficial for the vocabulary, and especially then when you're telling a story. Okay, number 6, heightened senses. So really useful is to get students, because often when students become distracted, it's because there's just so much going on with their senses and they're not really sure which to focus on more. Therefore, it's like, just be distracted by this sound, this smell, this whatever. And so if you get students to work on focusing on a sense, then they're much more likely to focus and concentrate in the future. So what we can do is we can, for example, close their eyes. What can they hear? What can they smell? If we block one sense, the other senses become stronger. We can have sensory objects in the classroom, get students to interact with these. So how can they feel something? So have maybe like different things that feel different or are a different texture. What can we hear? What can we see? If we perhaps can't hear anything, we'll put our hands in our ears. Taste depends on what you want in your classes, okay? You might feel very creative one day and get students to taste test things, or smell as well, different things. So get creative with getting students just to heighten their senses in some way, because then this increases the focus and enables them to control a little bit more what sense they focus on. Again, another one that we've spoken about. So one of the benefits was to think more innovatively. And so students sometimes find it difficult to be creative of mind. So to think about things in a more imaginative way. So like coming up with a story, they're like, oh, I just can't do it. Okay, unless you tell them or unless you give them prompts. And so what we want is to get them to be able to come up with these ideas using their knowledge and be a little bit more creative and imaginative. So before getting students to read or watch something, try and get them to imagine it. So give them, brief instructions, brief kind of prompts, and get them to close their eyes and imagine it. Okay, imagine you're walking in your house. Imagine you're walking in your street. Okay, an idea. For example, we're doing rooms of the house. Okay, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to go from your front door and I want you to walk through all of the rooms of your house. I want you to walk through to the living room, to the bathroom, to the bedroom. I want you to go and touch something. Okay. In doing this, this is kind of self-control and concentration and focus and blocking out any other distractions apart from the instructions that we're hearing. And so it can be for anything really. Doesn't have to be a story, it can be a place they've been. It helps them concentrate and focus on their own thoughts rather than outside input. And it gets students to use existing knowledge. And again, in terms of language, the prompts are language input. So the language input and the creativity and the imagination all go together. They all go hand in hand. Okay, so sometimes we think we don't have space or we don't, students to get up and students to move around is sometimes quite difficult, especially if we've got big groups in small classes. So you can do chair poses. Very easy, okay? We don't have to do yoga standing up. We can do yoga from our chair. So you can have a variety of poses that students can do from the chair so that you don't need much space to do them. You can either get students to choose, pick out of a hat, or work your way through a series of easy chair poses. And again, like we've done with the flashcards, these are in the same way. So you can either have a series of them, you can have them at different parts of the lesson, but it's just a different way of getting students to interact and not stand up. And so here's a variety of ideas of things you could do. I just got these off the internet, so chair poses, chair yoga poses. So here, just, this stretching my back. And again, this is really good if you see students with bad posture. Okay, if you notice it doesn't have to be something that you've planned. You can be like, right, okay, guys, we're just going to do this. Everyone stretch their back. Everyone, hands on the chair. Okay, some of them are more difficult than others. Like the middle one, for example, you might get a few chairs kind of falling over. So pick ones that you think students will be able to do better. Okay, and here is an example of a few students doing these poses. Okay, they love it. And you don't need the space. Okay, it's just a circle with the chairs. they do not need the space necessarily to do these poses, and they're having loads of fun, obviously. Okay, tip number 9, use calming music. Seems logical, okay? When you're getting the students to think or reflect, play calming music. And what it does is it helps students avoid distractions. So I've done this before when students are doing a test or when they're doing a reading, for example. The calming music helps them become less distracted by other noises or other things that they're seeing. So when they're doing independent tasks like reading or an activity, just pop the music on, and it really helps control the mind and focus the mind. You can also use it for a few moments of quiet reflection if students are particularly nervy. So if you can see that they're quite anxious that day or quite nervy that day and are kind of quite quick to snap at each other, just like, okay, have a few moments of reflection, just thinking about what we're going to do this weekend, but think. Okay, so this is kind of like the imagination as well, and popping that music on will really help them. Okay, my last tip for this morning is slow things down. So a lot of the time with students, they think it's a race. And so they rush through things without thinking about it. This is why, for example, a student will do a task, they'll rush through it. You're like, have you finished? Yes, I finished. And then it's wrong, but they know it. And then when you ask them afterwards, they know it. And they're like, oh yeah, but okay. And this is because we've got really used to, as people, doing things far too quickly without really focusing on it and concentrating, because everything just has to be done like now. And so take some time in your class to practice doing things a little bit more slowly. To help the brain focus and to help concentration, and just to kind of like relax the brain a little bit. We don't have to go 100 miles an hour. For example, moving slowly around the room, we could try just walking around very slowly, because then what we have to do is actually think about lifting our foot up and putting our foot down, whereas normally we don't think about it, but when you do it slowly, you have to think about it. Drawing or colouring something slowly, helping students think about what they are doing more rather than rushing through it. Okay, so this is what the aim of this is. Other things we can do, okay, putting your pen down slowly. I have my pen, okay, but okay, everyone now, you have to put your pen down, but not like this, 5 seconds. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, pencil down. Okay, or writing something slowly. Okay, I'm writing the date, but I want to write it really slowly. Opening your book slowly, putting something in your bag slowly, standing up slowly. Anything that you have as part of your classroom routine, okay, let's do it in 5 seconds. And in doing this, it's just, I'm focusing on what I'm doing a lot more. I'm focusing on the act of standing up or putting my pen down. And so the concentration is there. And it helps students become less rushed in general when they're in the classroom. Okay, so things to consider then when looking at all of these things and the tips that I've given you. It might take a while for students to get used to it. And be persistent. If you aren't enthusiastic, then the students aren't going to be. So you need to be like, it's normal. Okay, it's something normal, we're doing it, and they'll eventually do it. Okay, little and often, as with everything in life, is the key. If you take half an hour, the students are going to be bored and distracted by the end, and you might think that it's a disaster, but that's because you've taken way too much time out of the lesson to do it. Take note of the activities that students enjoy, the ones they really like, and use those to your benefit in the class. It might be that one class really likes something and another class likes another thing. So think about the needs of your students and the profile of your students. Let the students take charge. So if you've been doing it for a while, you can get them to choose something. You can get them to decide, what activity you do and when. Keep it as an up your sleevey if the students need it. So always be prepared to whip it out if you feel that they're very nervy or something's happening or they're like quite stressed. Think about the space you have in the classroom and planning and preparing these things as to how much you think you can get out of it, okay, in terms of your space. If you do an activity and then get into the classroom and you realize, oh, actually there's not enough space, then you get stressed and frustrated yourself. Instructions appropriate for the level of your students. Yes, you need to think really carefully about the instructions that you give, because you don't want students then to not be able to do something, or to be like, I have no idea what you're saying, or I don't understand, because then they're not going to get anything out of the activity. So if you need to, you can script instructions or look on YouTube and see how people give instructions, and kind of adapt those accordingly. If you find a video, watch it before. Okay, so watch, if you've got a 5-minute video for students to do and you put it on and you've not watched it, and there's something then that is unexpected, like they have to get a mat out or get on the floor, then you can be like, it can cause a little bit of chaos. So make sure you watch it. Keep distractions in the classroom to a minimum. So try and make sure there's nothing, if you're doing something like this, that there's nothing they can touch, or you're not going to be like many distracting noises. Don't introduce too much at once. You don't need to do 10 poses in one day. You need to do 10 activities. Like we saw in the video, that buddy breathing every day, it's the same thing. Okay, one thing is really, really helpful. So even if you manage just to do one thing, you don't need to introduce 10 things. It's not a competition to see how many poses they can do. And you don't have to say it's mindfulness or yoga, because then they might see it as, more negatively. So you can just say, okay, let's do this, stand up, do this. You don't have to say it's anything. You know it. It's like in class. We don't say, okay, now we're going to do a multiple choice close because this is really beneficial for your vocabulary. No, we don't have to narrate our lessons. They just do the task, they benefit from it. We know why we're doing it. So we don't have to necessarily give that information to our students. They don't have to know. So is it just for children? No. Teens and adults would also benefit from being more mindful just as much as, if not more, than children. But what we've got to think about with them is what activities and what tasks are appropriate for teens and for adults. Teachers also need to do the actions along with the students, and this can help reduce teacher stress. So we've got teacher stress, so we need to make sure that we do it too. We benefit from it. We have to choose activities based on the age group and willingness of the students to move about. Okay, so we can't necessarily have it in exactly the same way as with children, but we can think, okay, can I do this? Yes, I can. And, the students, I think, will benefit from it. Adults go to yoga. Why then are we not going to do some kind of activity in the classroom which will benefit their concentration? Make sure there's a clear element of language learning with older learners. Yes, because they're much more like, oh, but we're not learning language. I'm here, I've paid my money for English classes. Okay, so make sure that there is also an element of language. So if you've got some kind of vocabulary that goes along with a lot of the poses or instructions, then, you could pre-teach that, go through it, and then use that as part of your activities. Okay, and here we've got just some nice photos that I've taken over the years. This is one of the teachers doing the activity, and the teachers actually liked Yoga Thursday way more than the students, I would say. Every week it was like, oh yeah, yoga. And then this is just one of my favorite photos of us doing like a pair yoga activity with one of the teachers. So much fun, just glorious and fun every single week. So the thing that we have to do is give it a go. You're never going to know how it will affect your students and benefit you and your students as well if you don't try. So you have to just give it a whirl. Start small, start with a couple of things, build it up if you need to, and see how it works for you and see how it works for your students. Okay, has anybody got any questions? Anything that they'd like to ask? Pop it in the chat if you do. No questions today. Great. Oh, and you say that adults are really reluctant. Yes, but again, if we expect them to be reluctant, then they are going to be. All right. It's about everything in class, how we promote it, how we set it up. And adults are reluctant with many things, but eventually, if you want to introduce it and it's something which you think is beneficial, they'll do it and they'll benefit from it. like with anything that we do, any activity that we do in language classes. And we have to specifically choose something or an activity which we think will be beneficial for language learning and also then for their general personal well-being. Okay, so school's out, guys. Woohoo! Well done for getting through the craziest of terms and all the stress and chaos that happened way back in March time. Enjoy the summer, the well-deserved summer break after these 3 months locked up and teaching online and everything that's gone with that as well, which has been something which I guess has been great for us because we have learned so many more things. We are more well-rounded teachers now. We can all teach online and have increased our skills with technology, but it has been tough, and thank you very much for those who have come to every webinar, and you know, it's been really lovely to be connected with everybody, even though we're in the comfort of our own home, or the prison of our own home, over the past couple of months. If you have any questions, please contact me. You have my email. Okay. All of the webinars that we've recorded will go on the London-School-Online online learning platform. So all of the 10 that we've recorded are on there now. Please, if you have any kind of suggestions or ideas of webinars that we could include in the future, please let me know, because I'm open to ideas. We come up with these ideas because we think they'll be useful, and it's things that we've kind of thought of over the past years of teaching. But of course, we're only 3 people, so the more the merrier in terms of ideas. So if there's anything that you're like, oh, I'd quite like to learn about this, let me know, and we'll try and integrate it into a webinar series for next year, because hopefully then, not obviously every week, but we'll do maybe monthly webinars next year. Which will be on a number of topics. But if you have any that you think that would be useful, please email me or let me know. I'm more than open to ideas or suggestions. Okay, so thank you very, very much for attending. I hope that you have a fantastic weekend, a fantastic summer, and that is all from us. Thank you very much.